God alone is good. When the young man comes up to Jesus and calls him good teacher, Jesus says, "Why do you call me good? Only God alone is good." But he doesn't dispute the truth of the matter. So it almost begins with a divine self-acknowledgement of who Jesus really is. That being the case, in our faith in the fact that he truly is the Son of God places the words that were on his lips right afterwards a certain amount of importance and a certain amount of pay attention, because this is God speaking to us about some truth. So Jesus did not deflect the statement so much as he affirmed the statement that indeed he was the good one. In the first reading today, we hear the prayer for wisdom, the spirit of wisdom. And the spirit of wisdom is given to the one who is praying for this gift of wisdom. Now, the context of this reading from the book of Wisdom takes place in Alexandria, Egypt, where that book was written. It was written by a Jew who was part of a very small minority of Jews within that secular and Greek culture of Alexandria in Egypt. So they were a minority. They felt themselves very much oppressed in the sense of this society around them was, in a sense, grabbing their children away from them and pulling their community apart simply because of the temptations that were there around them. And so he wrote this book as a way of trying to solidify the community by telling them, this is who we are. This is our identity. And so this gift of wisdom that is being prayed for by the author gives us a whole list of things that are truths about God and our relationship with him. And one of those truths today is what's expressed by Jesus. It's our attitude towards our possessions. So the key gifts of the Holy Spirit that we can reflect on are not only wisdom, but also understanding. Wisdom is that gift of the Holy Spirit that allows us to see God working in our lives. And then understanding is that gift of the Holy Spirit that allows us to live as his children. These are key gifts to understand our relationship with the world. Because then, with those gifts, we can see that all that we have is a gift from God, and secondly, it is not for ourselves. All possessions have a social capital because they are very capable of doing something bad to us. Because instead of us possessing the things that we own, we start acting like they possess us. And that's what Jesus saw in this young man. He saw right through it. He said to him, he says, well, and you kept the commandments. And he lists the most social of the commandments. In other words, the love of neighbor part of it. Did you take care of your parents? Are you not stealing? Are you not lying? Are you not committing adultery? Are you doing these things that are respectful to our neighbors? And I said, yeah, I'm doing all that. Then Jesus goes deeper to the very core commandment of the Ten Commandments, which is the first one, about the issue around idols. And he says, he looks at him with love. And he says, go and sell everything you have and give it to the poor and then come follow me. And the man's face fell. He was sad because he had many possessions. It's possible to be rich and still enter the kingdom of God, but one's attitude towards one's possessions and what one does with one's possessions will be a key difference. And that's what Jesus is trying to get at to us today. The rich man asks about getting into heaven. What do I have to do? And Jesus makes that statement. It's easier for a rich man to enter, easier for a camel to get through the eye of a needle. So, there's a story about a poor beggar who lived in a very poor country, and he made his living by his little tin cup. And he would sit there where people walked and asked for alms for the poor. One day a holy man came by, dressed in his orange robes, and the beggar reached out his tin cup to the holy man. And the holy man reaches in his pocket, and he takes out a very large, precious gem, and he puts it into the cup. And the poor man looks at that, takes that gem out and grabs a hold of it in his hand and looks around to see if anybody saw him. And he ran and scampered off because he didn't want anybody to know about this. And he didn't want the holy man to change his mind. And he held on to that ruby, that precious stone with such strength that it even hurt his hand. And he got to his little hut and he barred the door and he looked at that ruby in his hand. And he started to be afraid that someone see him come to his hut, that someone see him lock his door. Maybe they're going to come take it from him. And then he thought about his extended family who never cared for him, but he knew that now that he had this, they'd probably come and bother him. And he couldn't sleep all night because he had this gem. He worried about someone coming to steal it. The next morning, having woken up then from almost no sleep, he went and found the holy man. And he gave him back his gem. The holy man said to him, "Why are you giving this back to me?" And the beggar says, "I want something else from you. I want that spirit in you that allows you to give that gem away. I want that spirit of detachment." This spirit of detachment is what Jesus is asking us to contemplate in our own lives today. In what way are we attached to the things of this world? In what way do we have a spirit of detachment? A spirit of detachment is defined by happiness regardless of whether you have or don't have. Because you feel yourself blessed no matter what the amount is. Henry Thoreau said one time, don't just be good for something. And so those gifts of the Holy Spirit, when we apply them to possessions, first of all gets us to a different attitude towards what we have, that we indeed use them for a time. In a sense, we're always renting everything that we own, even though we may have the title to it. In a sense, it's never going to be ours permanently because we're never going to take it with us. And so how is it that we can use it for the benefit of others? There comes the second gift, the gift of understanding, of how we use what we have for the sake of others, for the good of others. We all have riches. Yes, we do. We all have riches. In fact, we are all like that young man in the gospel. For we have many gifts that God has given us. First of all, the one thing that's extremely common to all of us is the gift of time. That we are given time to work out our salvation. The second gift that we are all given our talents. Every one of us has some sort of talent. If not more than one, many talents. And thirdly, there's where the difference comes in terms of what kind of wealth and possessions we may have. But when you compare ourselves to so many other places in the world, you have to say, we're pretty blessed. We're pretty rich. And so what is it that we do with those three things? How do we see them? So I made up three little comparisons maybe to kind of get us to look a little bit beyond ourselves. The college basketball star goes up to Jesus and says, "What must I do to inherit everlasting life?" And Jesus says to him, he says, "Go to the inner city and start a basketball league for at-risk kids." And the the basketball star from college, went away sad because he wanted to go to the NBA. The business owner goes to Jesus and asks him, "What must I do to earn eternal life?" And Jesus said to him, he says, "Go and create some job opportunities for people that are struggling to find decent wages." And he went away sad because he was too worried about simply paying the mortgage. And the woman who just lost her sister to cancer goes up to Jesus and says, "What must I do to inherit everlasting life?" And he said to her, take the time that you have and work for the cause of trying to prevent cancer or cure it. And she went away sad because she was still too sad about the death of her sister. We all have lives with all sorts of pictures like that in our lives. And how we approach life is going to determine, to a large extent, how we're going to respond to that question that Jesus has for us. This is how you will inherit everlasting life. To make sure that the possessions that you have, the gifts that you've been given, do not possess you, but that you see them as important for the sake of other people. We start with our families, and then we go from there, in terms of trying to make the world a better place. We all are rich in some way. All of us have time, all of us have talents, and all of us have money. No matter what is left of all of those things for us, it can't own us, or we can use it for the good of others.